Another Wednesday night in the books, and you are here with us live on Wrestling Inc.'s YouTube and Twitch channel. I'm Justin LaBar. He is Alfred Konuwa. AEW Dynamite coming from Norfolk, Virginia. We're going to talk about it all. We can't wait to talk about it. Engage with you in the comments. Talk some news of the day from the Wrestling Inc. headlines. But first is first. Let's just normal pleasantries. Alfred, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Justin. Good to see you after a week. How's everything with you? How's everything in Pittsburgh? I hear it's about to snow over there.
Yeah, today we got a unusually warmer day. It was like approaching 70, but yeah, man, it's the leaves are everywhere, the wind's blowing, snow's coming. It's what you get when you live in Western Pennsylvania.
Does that make you feel better? Does it make you feel more festive when you see it? Because I'm not used to. I've been in California my whole life, so I'm not really used to seeing snow. But you know, the thought of snow to me gets me excited, but it's very novel to me. So is it something where you're sick of it?
I like fall weather. I like the fall season. I got a fireplace. I love burning fires when it gets cooler. Fall time, football, big vats of chili. I'm down for all that. But then when you got to start dealing with leaves that you got to clean up and rake because they're wet and they're everywhere, then you got to shovel snow just to get out, and then go somewhere. Snow's pretty if you don't have to, if you don't have to go anywhere.
Right.
If you can hunker down and you got all the supplies you need, all the food, all the drink, all the firewood and everything. Snow is beautiful, but after that, when you got shit to do, no fun.
Good visual, kind of like pancakes. Like they look good, and as much as I do like pancakes, after a couple of bites, you're just like, man, I might have bitten off more than I could chew. I don't know if I could finish this whole stack. And snow is like the visual version of that.
I never would have thought the pancakes were going to come into the comparison here, but fair enough. Troy, I love you. Justin, been watching you since the chair shot reality, buddy. Thank you very much. Yeah, you're a way back fan. Appreciate it. $2 paid. Day one. $2 Mike D. Doink the Clown, Matt Bourne, 2022 Hall of Fame. So Mike D making a suggestion. I mean, Matt, it's kind of a shame. Matt Bourne, the original performer of the Doink the Clown. And then WWE had a few other, Ray Apollo, a couple others that had it for some kind of stint. And then now Doink the Clown was Sin Cara before Sin Cara. Like, now you just throw anybody under it and you just monetize off of it. Now every podunk town and in the backwoods that's had an indie wrestling show had a Doink the Clown wrestle on their card, rightly or wrongly.
But he's in some ways the opposite of Sin Cara in that the original Matt Bourne version was the best version, whereas the original Sin Cara was very questionable in terms of spots and stuff like that. But Matt Bourne, very, very clever wrestling mind. I really like how he played Doink the Clown as like a sick clown, kind of more of a dark version, but then it got bastardized over the years.
The next time I get to see Jerry McDivitt, famed WWE lawyer, I'm going to ask him if he could ballpark me, how many cease and desist he sent to would-be Doink the Clowns.
He's just got to he's got to copy and paste somewhere where he just got to Control V and just send it.
Oh, there's a Doink file for sure.
Yeah.
There's the Doink file for sure in the filing cabinets. Oh man. Tonight's podcast, of course, sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped, the best below the waist grooming guys and performance tools you can find. We'll tell you all about them in just a little bit. But first, let's actually jump into a few news headlines. We do have a couple we'll do real quick on the WWE side of things before we get into AEW. Tribute to the Troops. Long-standing thing. WWE's been doing now for 20 years. And they did this. They taped it, and then it aired this past Sunday after football. And Alfred, that seemed to do them well on Fox because the Tribute to the Troops reportedly drew about over 2 million, 2.030 million to be more precise. And that's 1849 demo, 0.51. So that represents that 663,000 people in that 1849 demo were who watched this show as a whole. So overall, for a one-off that is the Tribute to the Troops, that's good news. And look, take advantage of your Fox distribution. Put it on Sunday when everybody's got Fox. Just whether you're at a bar or whether you're at home, everybody's got Fox on watching football.
I'll say, I mean, I was shocked by this number, pleasantly surprised in terms of what they did. This is on par with their hottest show or the best, biggest show in terms of what they do weekly in SmackDown. It's just under SmackDown, which is 2.1 million. So yeah, that lead in from the NFL. This is what I thought. I was maybe on the wrong side of the fence of one of those people who thought that WWE was going to go through a boom period because they were going to be on network TV. And one of the reasons I thought so was that we were going to get all of these shows where maybe they would do collaborations with the Fox lead-in. I remember it was last year either last year or the year before, where they had a lead-in from Fox for a Christmas episode of SmackDown, and it did one of the best numbers they've ever done. So, I mean, whenever WWE can do something like this and work with Fox in terms of, getting that lead-in from the NFL audience, I really do think that it's definitely going to assist WWE, and they need to be pushing to do this more if they can.
Absolutely, because, I mean, obviously your smarter fans, they know this tribute to the troops, while a great sentiment behind it and great origin, they know nothing of note is going to take place, and as it pertains to the characters or character developments or title changes or what have you. It's all, just a glorified patriotic house show. So yeah, so this definitely tells you that this putting it where you did on Fox definitely grabbed, just again, intentionally or unintentionally, people that still had the channel on, or I'll check out wrestling because my football game's done, or whatever the case may be. So I mean, I would honestly, if I'm WWE, maybe toy with maybe manufacturing a few more one-off specials that you can convince Fox to let happen following key sports programming.
It could be like a quarterly thing, just like AEW is doing the Battle of the Belts, or they're going to do some TNT specials every quarter. I really do think that WWE should have something, whether it's quarterly, whenever they can. They need to be sitting down with Fox executives like, all right, when do we have openings to come on TV after football is on, so that we can really maximize that audience?
Yeah, I don't know who off the top of my head, which of the three majors, Fox, CBS, or NBC for football, that have the Super Bowl this year. But if next time Fox is Super Bowl, if WWE is still on Fox, I mean, if I'm Vince or Nick Khan or whomever, I would be, making my best pitch of how can I be the follow-up program behind Super Bowl. I mean, in the past it's been, see the debut of The Masked Singer or see the debut of some big series, and I get it. But also, if you're Fox, if you got this giant investment that you do in WWE, it's not like you just want to throw them aside. So I would definitely be making a plan for the next time Fox has a Super Bowl, try to somehow be a part of Super Bowl Sunday, before, during, or after.
And to that point, NBC is actually going to host the Super Bowl this year. And you talk about giant investments in WWE. Like, I mean, they did a whole partnership with WWE during, I believe it was a Belmont Stakes, which was a big horse race on NBC. So NBC, I mean, WWE should be coming to NBC like, hey, man, like, can we get some ad time or something? Throw us a bone for all this product that you bought from us?
A one-night only return of Sunday Night Heat. Let's get it.
Yes.
All right. Well, tribute to the troops, it did strong. We can't say the same for NXT. NXT 2.0 this past Tuesday drew 574,000 according to Nielsen via Showbuzz Daily. That is once again down 4% from last week, where it was 603, which was down to the week prior to that, which was down. It's basically been down since Halloween Havoc. The NXT episode did a 0.11 rating in the 18 to 49 demo. That's down 26% from the previous week. So this is pretty much, I'm just repeating exactly what we talked about at this time exactly 7 days ago, Alfred, which is NXT is just continuing to slide since its last premium show in Halloween Havoc.
Yeah, and this episode deserved it. If you saw the podcast last night, it was very tough for us to get through it because it wasn't the best episode of NXT. And I really was fearful of the fact that they promoted that poker showdown. And not only them promoting that there's going to be a poker showdown on a wrestling show, but if you saw it play out, I mean, I thought from a production standpoint, it was done very well in terms of it looked like an actual poker match. They had all the graphics, but my guy, it's a wrestling show. Like, I'm just watching this and they're explaining the rules of poker. And it's taking forever. And I'm thinking to myself, man, people aren't going to stick around for this. And, I don't want to have like a confirmation bias and say that's the reason, but I'm sure it's one of the reasons why this show didn't really garner a lot of attention. That was one of the big promoted items on this show. And I just don't think it had enough. And it's just going to take a lot of promotion. And, again, like we keep banging the drum on this thing, the same thing, but some top main roster stars need to come to NXT. Not necessarily top stars, but main roster guys who people are familiar with need to come to NXT. And it would not hurt SmackDown to promote it a little bit when Von Wagner's on television to say his name and say that there's a show called NXT in front of the 2 million people who watch your show.
Forgive me if you already gave your opinion on this, but I know we have different audiences that watch this show compared to the post NXT. Thoughts of possible success if the rumors are true, if NXT would move to a TV 14 rating?
I don't think it would be successful on the merits of moving to TV 14. I think it'd be one of those things where on the first episode, it would garner some interest. People would tune in to see what it's like, what the big fuss is about. But if they don't have the storylines in place, then it's going to go right back to what we're doing now. I don't think TV 14 is going to be the difference. I think the storytelling and the way that they do TV 14, I think it would be great for NXT to be TV 14 because it would expand creatively what they can do. But just TV 14 is not going to change anything.
Yeah, I think there would be that surge of like, oh my God, we're going to see like an Attitude Era show on the first night. But you're right. I mean, you kind of think back to like 06, 07, 08-ish when they had the WWE CW, those on Tuesdays, that was push the boundaries beyond TV 14. You know, I mean, Kelly's out there but getting ready to do a strip tease and some other things. And they thought that could be it. But there was kind of like, you know, what you just said, there wasn't a lot of star power. There wasn't, you know, it was on Tuesdays isolated. So, you know, I think you're right. It's great creatively, but you got to have the right people to insert creatively for it to matter. So, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out to see what that does. And if that, what's interesting too is if that happens, if they do ever move to TV 14 and they do see a consistent bump up because they just are getting more creative or serving more to an older audience, if numbers would provide data and say, all right, do we want to move one of our Raw or SmackDown shows to, again, back to being a little bit more edgier if we are getting into this demo war, so to speak. So
yeah, that's the ironic thing about wrestling. I could see them doing TV 14 because they're trying to get a younger audience, but young people watch wrestling when it's like not meant for them, you know, when it's this forbidden thing that's for adults, then the young people are going to go. But when they're quote unquote pandering to children, it's not going to be as successful with kids.
For sure. All right, we'll transition over to the AEW news headline that's going to take us right into the rundown of Dynamite tonight. This is also, again, you can read more about this on WrestlingInc.com. Kenny Omega expected to undergo surgery soon. This coming from PW Insider. It's expected he's going to be out of action for an extended period of time, and that is going to be shoulder surgery. Now, this is also kind of lining up with reports that have been out there, Alfred, that Omega has been working for a long time, banged up with all kinds of nicks and scrapes and bruises, but he's just obviously been the focal point of AEW being their champion, that he understood we got to keep playing ball here. But now, having dropped the title, perfect time for him to get some well-deserved rest. And then what we saw tonight, which we'll get to in a moment, certainly lines up that Kenny Omega is going to disappear for a while, and then they'll let the storyline of that take its own course.
Yeah, and I agree. It's well-deserved. I mean, he's been wrestling his ass off for this whole title run, not only in AEW and AAA and Impact Wrestling, having a lot of really high, what you call work rate matches, I guess, but really working his ass off. And it's funny because it's probably longer than it should have been. I guess he was probably looking at the September show when they did Grand Slam. That's where he's going to take time off, drop the title to Hangman Adam Page. That was the original plan. And then Hangman had real life step in. So Kenny Omega with those bum shoulders had to keep going an extra couple of months. And God bless him, because now he does earn this break. And, I do expect them to be gone. And they did a little storytelling that we're going to get into. But I'm very much looking forward to how they play it when he comes back.
Yeah, Kenny Omega, I'm sure happy for his real-life friend, Hangman Page, having a child. But that child cost Omega about 6 more weeks of bumping while injured. So that is the business you're in. All right, let's go into it. AEW Dynamite coming from Norfolk, Virginia. A big play up here that, of course, Virginia, the Southern Virginia, to be more specific, is the stomping grounds of the new AEW heavyweight champion, Hangman Adam Page. So before we get to him coming out, though, we do see Kenny Omega backstage, and the Bucks are coordinating Cutler and those guys to record this. And Omega talks about how we lost, we had a bad night. Okay, Hangman, good for you. Young Bucks, you're gonna need to hold down the fort. He says, hold down the fort. Adam Cole speaks up first. Omega corrects him and goes, no, I was talking to the Bucks. So they tease a little tension there with Adam Cole and Omega already, just to cliffhang you. And then Kenny Omega walks off, presumably for the last time, for quite some time, on AEW live television. So again, just follow up to what we just talked about, setting the stage for Omega's going to be gone. And obviously, it's been teased, Alfred. It seems like when he comes back, whether Adam Cole is still associated with the Bucks or if that's going to be the end point once Omega is back. But as we've talked about, Adam Cole certainly being set up for life after his elite buddies.
Yeah, and it could be as soon as whenever Kenny Omega comes back. Adam Cole will already have that stable. I don't know how confident they are that they can get a Kyle O'Reilly, but maybe they're planning loosely and long term that it's Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly, and the Young Bucks need a tag team partner, and here comes Kenny Omega. And that would also kind of coincide with how they acted for the Hangman Adam Page match, where they were very approving of him. They officially cornered him for this match and gave him a nod of approval. So that might be the impetus for the Elite getting back together with Hangman Adam Page if this Adam Cole thing ends up kind of dividing the Young Bucks with Adam Cole and his crew. And it makes sense. I think it's pretty good storytelling if they're able to line up and the stars align for them and they're able to get all the pieces in place. I am very intrigued by this.
I agree. All right, so then we go to the ring. We have the Dark Order in the ring, and they introduce the new heavyweight champion, Hangman Adam Page, who comes out to a great ovation. And Page out there, real quick, takes a victory lap verbally, talks about how his boss is all the fans, and he can do whatever he wants because now he's AEW World Champ. He knows it comes with responsibility, and he knows that he's got challengers awaiting. And here comes the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, and this takes a turn for the interesting real quick. So it starts out, looking like a very babyface situation of Bryan coming out, congratulating Page, even offering a handshake, and they do shake hands. But then quickly we find this is not going to be babyface versus babyface, or at least not in Virginia, where it's Page's home state. Bryan proceeds to start to talk about how, good for you, you're champion, but I kind of expected Omega to be champion. I thought that's who I'd be challenging. Page kind of fires back. Well, no, I beat Omega, and actually I did it in less than 30 minutes, taking a shot at Bryan. And then they start to amp up. Bryan says, well, I guess cowboy shit must mean you just don't wrestle because I'm out here wrestling every single week. Bryan even does a WrestleMania name drop. He says, I was wrestling at WrestleMania. I won the world title. And then I wrestled 2 matches that night. And then I wrestled again the next night. Dropped WrestleMania. And that, Alfred, was the catalyst for the decibel level just to go up a booze of how dare you name drop the other company's mega show in WrestleMania, which I thought that was pretty unprecedented for them to do. A shoving match starts to take place. Bryan says, I don't want to hear any excuses. We're not fighting tonight because obviously you're not ready. You're dressed ridiculously. Shoving match. Guys, the Dark Order kind of separating them. Eventually Page getting his hands on Bryan briefly. So color me surprised. I did not see a heel Bryan Danielson this quickly in AEW, much less for the first time, not much less for him challenging this babyface and Hangman Adam Page.
Well, I'm happy it's happening. And it's funny because Bryan Danielson comes out there. We're getting this babyface feud. First thing he says is, I'd like to congratulate you. And I just rolled my eyes like, oh, God, we're going to get one of these things. And then he just completely turned it up, which I completely love. And I think people are judging AEW by WWE standards. AEW has said for a while now that they don't really adhere to the babyface heel thing. What they mean by that isn't that like babyface and heels don't exist, but I don't think they adhere to static babyfaces and heels. People are layered and they're nuanced. So sometimes you just got to be a different person for a given feud. And Bryan Danielson's going on the road here. He's on the road in Virginia against the top babyface in the company now. He has to play his part. So yes, I do think he's a heel, but I think he's a heel for this feud, and he could go right back to being a babyface as soon as he loses to Hangman Adam Page, just like we saw Eddie Kingston do on this show, which Eddie Kingston was being positioned as the heel against CM Punk, the way he wrestled, the points he made and stuff like that. He was definitely, even though they love him, he was being positioned as a heel, but now he's going to go back to being a good guy against Daniel Garcia because that's really what it calls for. So I actually like that. I think it is kind of too old school to have somebody, he's a good guy, so he only has to face these good guys, and he has to be the same character against these good guys. But AEW philosophically is saying, no. He has to be a bad guy for this feud. But I'm sure he's going to turn into a good guy within a couple of months.
Yeah, and look, let's obviously it's as you said, it's a great situation of okay, if we are going to try to get a bad guy in this feud, let's do it in the champion's home state. But look, that was tonight, but they're in Chicago next week. That's a hot crowd that loves Bryan Danielson. And so it could be a situation of where, and they have to be prepared for this. And luckily, it seems Tony Khan gives the creative range that they can, kind of call it on the fly, so to speak. They might get to Chicago next week. And Chicago is not where Hangman Page is from. And Chicago might not be, they're supporting Page, but they might not be as ready to boo Bryan Danielson even still. And so I think that they have to be prepared that it might be a bit of a Bret Hart 97 situation of, if you're in Canada, Bret's the face. If you're in America, he's it might be it might be town to town that Bryan Danielson might just say what he's going to say. And some people might get behind it, like, yeah, this guy needs to be world champion, it might this heel reaction tonight in Norfolk might convince Chicago and the future cities, okay, we're going to play along and we're going to boo. But I think we have to be very prepared. The next week might not be as clear cut, black and white as it was tonight, and that's okay with me. I think to your point, it's okay to just live in a real world situation of, hey, some weeks some people make some good decisions, some weeks some people make some bad decisions, and we're just going to ride with it, and you react how you react.
Yeah, it also mirrors real sports in that when you're in your home building, people love you, but then you go out to Chicago, you go to the road, and then when you score a touchdown, you're doing that to the crowd. You're playing up the heel character. So it seems like you're a jerk to that stadium, but when you get back home, the people love you. So it's very much mimicking a real sport, and that you're not going to be beloved everywhere. Conor McGregor is a cult hero in Ireland when they do fights there, but then he'll go other places, and sometimes the reception isn't as warm.
Sure, and obviously, AEW wants to probably to keep Bryan. They want to keep him to be the heel. I mean, he's going. They targeted Chicago and Colt Cabana next week, so they're going to try to do the same formula again. But they have to be aware. Bryan Danielson's a guy that was able to, with his fandom, he was able to hijack essentially the booking of a WrestleMania plan. So anything's possible. Corey Pride, $2. Good use of WWE heat. Heel Danielson, yes. And even the no chance as he was stomping Evil Uno in the match, which we'll get ready to get into. All around, just really exciting stuff. This was certainly one of the highlights of the night. And Bryan Danielson, for as wholesome and as good of a guy he is in terms of the culture that is pro wrestling, he's a straight edge kind of guy, family guy, great big $1 million smile. Man, he can be a prick heel, and he knows the words and the buttons to push. So.
And he loves doing it. You could tell he was having such a good time doing. I mean, this is what I noticed when he was doing the Planet's Champion. This guy loves, and he's a great performer, which and so he loves playing the heel, and he loves getting that heel reaction. He did a great job of this.
Yeah, so we go to break. We come back for the advertised match, which is him versus Evil Uno. So Evil Uno getting a nice singles match here on Dynamite. Obviously, this is all about Bryan Danielson just dealing with one of the flackies of Paige. Ends up beating Evil Uno with the triangle sleeper, and then post match, he's just talks to Shivani and says, "Look, until he fights Paige, he's going to take the head off of every single Dark Order member. He's going to be enraged." And up next, Colt Cabana in Chicago. So we'll see. That's exciting. I mean, these two guys, they got history. They've been in the ring together before. Prior to Bryan's WWE time. So again, certainly trying to find that same formula, but we'll see how people react there. Let me get the first.
Can I ask you a quick question? Just based on the reaction you got from the WrestleMania reference, there's clearly, all kinds of heat for anything WWE. And coming in, there were those rumors that Bryan Danielson and CM Punk could do an outsiders thing where they're like the WWE guys. Do you think something like that would work? And I'm more convinced now that a stable like that would work, where you don't necessarily outright say we're the WWE guys, but a stable of people from WWE who are anti-AEW. Do you think that would play in today's AEW over long haul?
I think it could, because especially right now still, because so much of the it is very tribal. There is so much of the most diehard of AEW fans are so diehard because it is such a breath of fresh air in their opinions to what they've been given via WWE and how WWE has operated and treated talent. So I think that it would work. I think it would be believable. I think people would sink their teeth into it. It's just who. I don't think Punk and it's the same formula as what worked with the outsiders in NWO. It's like, Punk and even to a lesser extent Bryan don't work because, well, we know Punk was insanely disgruntled there. Bryan, while he got his flowers in different ways and has family ties still there, certainly didn't jive with some of the way things were. So you need to find guys who almost who were in WWE who almost are you can really try to frame that they are there doing old man Vince's dirty work. That's how it felt when Hall and Nash show up. And again, the lack of internet helped. You didn't know all what we know now about their contracts and what they were getting, but it felt like, oh my God, these are the guys showing up to push WCW around. So I don't know. You'd have to find WWE credible people, former WWE credible people that did not have well-known and publicized unhappy final days.
Right.
And I don't know how that happens, because if you're not, I don't know who's getting the budget cut, and then they're like, oh, I still love WWE.
You think somebody who's savvy enough will start going into business and being
maybe.
like, you know what, I get it, WWE, and then when they show up in AEW, people will think that they're in the tank.
Yeah. So, but I think fans would buy into it if it was the right,
right. That's a great point.
I don't know, but yeah, Punk definitely not going to buy into that. I mean, obviously, everybody. I think Punk kind of fuels, intentionally or unintentionally, he kind of fuels the tribalness of people that are like, F WWE because of how his departure was. All right, we get the first of 2 MJF appearances. This one's a pre-tape one that he did after his match last Saturday at Full Gear, and he's cut the promo just talking about people have no choice. He got all the Mark chants that this is awesome, all that stuff, and they have no choice but to admit how good he is. They kind of just, and he teases, that he'll be in Norfolk appearing later in the program. So he just kind of teases what will set up for another big night, another point of the night in the ring with promos. MJF, though, I mean, firing in all cylinders, Alfred. It's hard to find a flaw with his performances.
It is. If I was to grade this as a baseball stat line, I feel like he hit a home run and a triple tonight. He had that great, I thought that was a great backstage promo where you could tell he was just doing it in one take right after the match, just going through it. And I thought he was very fired up and made some great points about how he is a good wrestler. And even though you people hate me, you still have to chant for me when I'm wrestling. So he did a great job there. And I loved what he did later on in the night.
And if I was to grade Manscaped on wrestlers, I would grade Manscaped as an MJF. That's right. Well-groomed, pristine, no room for error, always ready for the big dance, always ready for the big event, and nobody's better, and you know it. And that's what we're talking about with Manscaped. It's holiday season. We're approaching Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite holidays. And when you're going around the table, who's thankful for what? I'm telling you, there's 4 million men in America, Alfred and I included, who could stand up and say, I am thankful for Manscaped. That's right. We're giving thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They are the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming. They have the Performance Package 4.0, and we're hooking you up with that. That's right. Just for being wonderful, awesome, loyal listeners and viewers of this podcast and Manscaped being so supportive, we're giving you free shipping, and you're saving 20% by going to manscaped.com using the code WINC20. Performance Package 4.0. It is the perfect package for your package. Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and the travel bag shaving kit to hold all the goodies. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer features cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce those grooming accidents. Thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, it also gives you the ability to turn on the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Plus, it's waterproof. Gives you all kinds of advantages there. Performance Package 4.0 also includes a Weed Whacker. Chop off the worst weeds and the nose hair. Nobody wants none of that, especially the lady you're going to dinner with, sitting at the dinner table with at Thanksgiving. That nose and ear hair trimmer. There we go. 9,000 RPM, Alfred. 9,000 RPM motor powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system. Do you got all that? That is skin-safe technology. Helps prevent the nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate spots. And we can't forget the liquid formulations. That's right. It's like the pumpkin pie of this whole feast here. It's got the Crop Preserver ball deodorant and Crop Reviver toner spray, and brand new product, the 2-in-1 shampoo plus conditioner body wash. So, I mean, it's got that signature scent, help you unlock your confidence this year. And hey, this is all great for you, ladies. This could be a great gift for you to get your certain man. It's kind of like the hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I want to make you be the best man you can be. So go ahead and gift it up. Use the code WINC20 and save 20%. Plus get free shipping at manscaped.com. They are great sponsors of this podcast. We appreciate it. Love it. Alfred and I can both attest to it. Manscaped, it is the way to go. They are the leaders. They are the MJFs of the below the waist grooming.
We love Manscaped around here. I had Manscaped, some of these great products sent to my place of residence on August 14th. And I did a little bit of research. The numbers don't lie. Ever since August 14th, my hinge matches have gone up 13%. And I blame Manscaped, okay? Not that I'm showing pictures or anything. They just smell. It just comes through the phone. It's so powerful of a scent that it exudes through the pores of my phone. and the women just cannot deny it. So thank you, Manscaped. They just continue to do it all.
I love that the Forbes.com writer is spitting stats on his dating life now. I love it.
The numbers guy. We're gonna have to do an article about it.
Oh hell yeah. Doom Tribe T, Manscaped, Jacob Freedom. There we go. Freedom. That's great. All right, so MJF. So stay tuned. We got more MJF coming up here. Eddie Kingston also backstage. He's trying to do a promo with Tony Schiavone. He's interrupted by Daniel Garcia and 2.0. Kingston's got no respect for Daniel Garcia, who lets 2.0 refer to him as their son. So he's got no. So I guess a little tease there of what's to come. Maybe next for Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston. I mean, where are you at with him after the biggest match of his career on pay-per-view with CM Punk?
Very surprising. This is, again, probably my WWE brain looking at this. I thought they were going to run it right back and they were going to continue feuding because they did the angle where he didn't want to shake CM Punk's hand. And I did think that it was going to lead to a double turn, but from what we saw, I guess that's not what's going to happen. Eddie Kingston is going back to being a babyface. I hope, I'm sure he's going to beat Daniel Garcia. That's good. But I do hope they have something big in store for Eddie Kingston because I feel like he has a lot of momentum right now. And I think he's better than just being, okay, he's a guy who could face CM Punk and then CM Punk moves on and then he moves back down the card. I really do think Eddie Kingston did a lot of good with this feud with CM Punk.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, as we saw, that's not what's next for CM Punk, it would not seem. But, I do think maybe, like, as I talked about last week, I was super over on Eddie Kingston last week, as I talked about with the momentum going into this match with Punk, with sound bites and the build, and then the column that he penned for the Players Tribune. And then they're going to be in Chicago next week. Obviously, that sets up great for who Punk's new foe seems to be, as we'll get to. But I still wondered, as you said, because there's no handshake, can you do one more follow-up? So Kingston goes the limit, doesn't win against Punk, but Punk's willing to shake his hand. Kingston says no. Do one more follow-up rematch on free TV in Chicago.
No.
Again, maybe Kingston doesn't win that one either because they seem to be obviously wanted to protect Punk's, protect him until it's time to lose. But that's where there's a handshake, and that's where Punk can formally anoint and say, yeah, this guy shook my hand. We're good. We're cool. Whatever. And that Chicago crowd can pop even bigger. And I think that would help the momentum of Kingston. That doesn't seem to be where we're going, but that was in my mind after seeing what happened Saturday and looking at the touring schedule, where are they going to be? And AEW plays off of their towns very big. I mean, where WWE ignores the towns or embarrasses the local person, AEW leans into it, as we talked about with Paige tonight. I thought, hey, this would be a great way to follow up with Kingston. I'm not going to do it, but that's my armchair Monday morning quarterback booking.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Tony Khan, you're free to take it and just
go ahead, book that, Tony.
Just send me a check. All right, Butcher and the Blade. First time we've seen them together on Dynamite for a while, up against Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro Ishii. And so this match, a lot of action here. Brainbuster on the Blade by Tomohiro. So the Chaos group getting a win here. And then, like I said, Butcher and Blade, haven't seen them much on Dynamite. I think what is it? I guess the Butcher. He's also he's got his rock band too. So I think maybe that's been some scheduling conflicts. But nonetheless, nice little tag team match to slip in here in the first hour.
Yeah, if I do have a nitpick for this match, I feel like they booked Tomohiro Ishii like he was like an introductory guy that we got to give him the rub from Orange Cassidy. And these people clearly knew who Ishii was. So he didn't really get his own theme music. He had to start the match instead of building to the hot tag with this badass. But, I thought the crowd took to him. They chanted "You effed up" when he started firing up. And it was good to see him in AEW. I just thought that they kind of booked him like he wasn't the big star that I feel like these crowd treated him like.
Yeah, it's hard to gauge. Like, AEW will not hesitate to put out, on the Forbidden Door theme, they will not hesitate to put out stars who are stars in the Japanese wrestling world. But then you're right. Then they will, in a situation like this, at least they will book them or at least insert them as if, okay, well, they're not the stars here. The audience may not know them, when, to your point, this audience, at least in Norfolk, was aware of him. So yeah, it's kind of like, make up your mind. Are you introducing them for the first time, or are we going off the clout that they already have? So, but nonetheless, not much really to take away here. This is, I think, just again establishing that Orange Cassidy is part of Chaos. Rolling out the Butcher and Blades, you have an opportunity to do here, but nothing much really more to speak of on this. if we're to find high points and low points, just one of the lower points. Danielson and his stuff is a high point. We got some more high points coming again with MJF soon. But that's kind of where that ranks if you're looking for what to fast forward through or what to watch on the show. We get an Andrade backstage promo. He and FTR. They said they are better than Cody and Pac. They will show Andrade, especially, will show his bad side. They basically said, "Look, we'll get Malachi Black and we'll do an 8-man tag here with all parties involved." And also Tully steps in and says, "Arn, if you want to go, look, we'll go." So I think that's actually happening next week. I think we're having the 8-man tag that they spoke about with Penta, Phoenix, Cody, and Pac versus FTR, Malachi Black, and Andrade El Idolo. Is this doing anything for you?
Kind of. I mean, I still don't really get the alliance with Andrade El Idolo and FTR. I think that's way too convoluted how they got there. And I really don't, I'm not getting into the storyline aspect of what they're doing right now. I'm more or less looking forward to the individual stories of whether it's Cody and Malachi Black and whatnot. But I'm sure they'll have a fine match. But from a storyline standpoint, not really.
So is the Pinnacle officially done? Like you have Spears, MJF, and Wardlow hanging out together, with Wardlow feeling like the third wheel the way it looks, and then you have FTRs being paid by but what's the deal? Like, I don't know. It feels
that's what's convoluted about it. Is from my standpoint, I think FTR is on loan where they're still part of the Pinnacle, but now they're going to work with Andrade because he paid MJF. And now, it's one thing to have a lot of stables. Another thing to now you're getting into this really 4D chess about, well, now it's like almost like they're doing a soccer league where somebody's getting on loan and transfer. And, Tony Khan is a soccer owner. So maybe that's just what that comes from.
It's logical in his mind.
Yeah. He thinks that, oh, no, this is fine. People do this all the time. But no, it's more of a European thing with how they do the soccer leagues.
That's a great. I didn't even think about that comparison. That's actually spot on. All right, so we'll see this 8-man tag next week in Chicago. We get Taya Conti speaking a few words in a pre-tape promo. We get Britt backstage. She says she's exhausted of carrying this women's division, so she's going to put a little time and effort into putting over the future and Jamie Hayter, who's going to be the future TBS champ. Of course, has a match this Friday against Thunder Rosa, who they don't even want to speak of her name. So we'll see how that plays. Certainly, if you look at the brackets, it definitely could run into if Jamie Hayter advances to Thunder Rosa. We could certainly see her running into Jade Cargill here if Jade Cargill is in fact going to surpass Red Velvet. So a lot of things to watch in the brackets of how it shakes out. How's this women's tournament doing for you? Is this TBS championship, is this living up to expectations, or does it feel second fiddle?
Yeah, it does feel second fiddle. I think it's fine. It's not blowing me away or anything like that, but I don't think it's this like grandiose thing. I really do feel like this is going to be like an engine to whether it's Jade Cargill or Ruby Soho. Hopefully it's Jade, but I think that once the person's crowned, they're going to do a lot more with that title. But the tournament itself, I don't think has caused any waves. And in terms of the talent that's involved in this tournament, and I know that they're capable of it, I just don't think that it's really delivered on that level consistently.
So when they started this tournament, I was convinced. I think you were kind of with me. I was convinced this is a tournament and a belt that is made for Jade Cargill. Yeah. But now the more that I look and I think, and I'm listening to interviews that Tony's doing, Tony Khan is super, super stoked that he's got Ruby Soho. You maybe wouldn't know so if you saw that she comes in and then she quickly is losing, but he's excited to have her, and it's just how it kind of fell out. I think he's gonna book to have her be the inaugural champion for this. So you have her as a babyface with that title. Britt's got the other women's title. They can kind of do their own thing. Jade Cargill, we know, is coming down the pike. We know that she is being positioned and just slowly groomed and what have you to have a big match. I think the slow groom is probably her and Britt, and it's probably for the AEW women's title that Britt has now. So that's probably something coming, maybe double or nothing next year, what have you. But I think that I'm changing my prediction. I think Ruby Soho is going to walk away with this title. Jade Cargill is going to be positioned to be the top babyface to attack with Britt sometime in 22. That's where I'm at.
I mean, they've been going out of their way to have these exchanges on Twitter that are kind of like work shoot exchanges in terms of how they're going at each other with like real life criticisms. But I think they're doing a good job of it in terms of Britt Baker and Jade Cargill. So I could see a feud like that down on the line. But I do like the promos Jade's been cutting. It just does seem like a belt tailor made for her, where she keeps saying that bitch show, and just the type of heel she is, I just think it would fit in terms of being a champion. This is one of those instances where I do think a belt could make somebody, because Jade Cargill hasn't been in wrestling for very long, but they're doing a good job protecting her, in these short matches, making her look dominant. And I think as a champion, she could really pop off. Whereas I don't think Ruby Soho needs a belt. And it would be even more exciting for this babyface to chase somebody like Jade Cargill.
Yeah, we'll see. I agree with everything you said. I see Tony so stoked about Ruby Soho. I'm like, I could just see this, and because we already have a heel women's champion right now. Right. But yeah, I mean, Jade wins that title, that bitch show. Shaq shows up and helps crown the title on her, and
there's a lot. I know we were talking about this too a couple weeks ago about how many belts there are on AEW TV, and I just noticed this on this show. Like there were like 3 or 4 segments consecutively where somebody had a belt, and a couple of belts weren't even like sanctioned AEW belts. Yeah, so it's starting to get a little, even as much as I do want a trios title, it is starting to get a little much in terms of all the belts on AEW TV.
Yeah, I mean we've had Impact belts, we got FTR walking around with AAA belt. It's I mean, again, I get it. It gives that international flavor of like, again, the Forbidden Door. But to your point, I say this, and it's an old fashioned saying that it used to be a WWE-ism even, but I use it. It was just, you need a scorecard if you're keeping score at home, folks. You do need a scorecard and a column. Who's aligned with who? Who's paying who to be aligned with such? Who's a heel or face on this particular week or month? You do need, what did you miss on Rampage, Dark, or Elevation? So that way you have your updated rankings
or BTE.
Or BTE. So you have your updated record and rankings. I mean, it's a lot. You really, you got to be a very focused and fantasy AEW owner if you're playing fantasy wrestling and you're setting your lineup each week. You got to know your shit.
So you're saying AEW is like fantasy baseball, where you got to check that team every day, sometimes twice a day, because they've got double headers.
You got to have your starters in. You need to know who's coming out. We need a couple lefties out of the bullpen today. Yeah. So it's intense. It's intense. Sticking with the women's action, we get Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida. This one again, fans getting into this. Just to give you a couple highlights here, Nyla's working Shida's knee. Nyla does a diving senton off the apron. Shida moves, so Nyla goes into the steel chair, explodes the steel chair. Crazy visual here. Shida hits Vicky with a kendo stick. It's a huge pop. Vicky Guerrero always good for heat. And then working on the knee, as I mentioned. So then taking advantage of that, Nyla wins with a standing stretch muffler on that bad knee. So Nyla advancing in this tournament. I thought this was actually very good. I'll be honest, when these two came out. Again, I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know how interested I'm in this, but this grabbed my attention. And this one was one where they had to deal with commercial breaks, I believe, and picture-in-picture. Yeah. But this held me. I was really impressed by both these ladies.
This was my favorite match until the main event. I thought these two did a great job in there. I loved how Shida sold her knee, and very shocked at the finish of her tapping out like that so quickly. But I thought this was a fantastic match, and not the first time that Shida and Nyla Rose, I believe they had a pay-per-view match that I really absolutely loved. So I mean, they worked very well together, and I like this match a lot.
I agree. I want to bring up a comment that I see in the chat here. Michael the Virus says AEW is booked for hardcore fans, not casuals. I bring this up because Michael, I don't necessarily disagree with you. Actually, I'm tend to lean more in agreeing with you that it is booked for, again, to what I just said. Casuals, by the definition, are people that can, again, stumble upon the show one week by accident or just by happen to see a promotion on Fox or whatever. It just reaches them and, okay, I'm looking for something to watch tonight after the kids go to bed. And if you're that, AEW is a harder watch in the sense of knowing who's with who, and you got to have some backstory. So I do agree. AEW probably is booked more hardcore fans. CM Punk had some comments recently where he said there is no more such thing as a casual wrestling fan. Everybody is hardcore. We have the internet, so everybody's invested. Whatever they watch, they're invested in. Which I can't. Also, it's hard to argue with that in some regards, even though it is still casuals that help you book 60,000 people for WrestleManias and what have you. But I can't help to wonder, Alfred, if CM Punk is right, and what Michael's saying here, if there are hardly any casuals anymore, and everybody has to be a hardcore fan, that's not good for the business.
No.
Because, look at sports. People rag on, if you're a diehard fan of a team, I'm a Washington Capitals guy. if I'm a diehard fan and I go to a Capitals game, but I see some Capitals fans or some fans showing up wearing Capitals gear, but as listening to them, I can tell they don't follow the team real well. They don't even maybe know the rules of the sport. They're bandwagon fans. The natural thing that you want to do is you want to be like, oh, you want to scoff at them. Oh, what are they doing here? Give up your seats for somebody else. But it's like, no, if you want the well-being of the franchise thrives on bandwagon fans. It's the loyal, jaded fans like me that show up every year, whether we're going to win or lose. It's the bandwagon fans that push the bottom line and the profits up when you're playing good and you're attracted to go to. And that's kind of what I think of wrestling is. You can have hardcore fans when wrestling sucks or is successful. You need those casuals to jump on when there's a star that's captivating. So if Punk is right, that's a bad sign for wrestling if everybody is in it no matter what.
Yeah, and you're seeing that with how it's affected the business of wrestling, and that if they were to bring on casual fans and increase the audience, there would be this trickle-down effect, and all kinds of promotions would be thriving, but that's not what's happening. ROH has been really hurt. The dirty little secret from AEW, which, I'm for AEW. I love what they've done. They've done a great job, but they have kind of had a cannibalistic effect on the rest of the business in terms of essentially the same people are watching wrestling. So when they do get all these guys like an Adam Cole or all these people that ROH now can't have, it's going to be harder for an ROH to get hot, and they're going to kind of crater the way that they have. Hopefully they're back. But then you're seeing with MLW who's had to cut a couple of people recently, and the whole business itself is going to get a little smaller because they're going to absorb some of these wrestlers that only the hardcore fans are, aware of, as opposed to making a product that's for casual fans and making the whole business, loaded with fans who are now going to support these other companies. So I do think there's a lot of ill effects with AEW being just directed to a hardcore following, because then the audience starts to get cannibalized.
Yeah. Terrence says $4.99. Thanks, Terrence. I like how AEW stories and feud don't always wrap up right away. Like when MJF and Darby meet again, the stakes will be higher. Yeah, I agree. That part of that is to the credit of AEW for, they have Rampage, but they have one Dynamite a week. They have a pay-per-view every 4 or 5 months. So part of that is just they have a really good pacing. And Tony Khan's been very open about this. This is one of the best things he has said. Learn from the mistakes of the past. Learn from the WCWs. Don't burn through your big matches. Don't burn through your rematches. God, look, WWE will give you a pay-per-view match and they'll give you the rematch of that 3 weeks in a row on free TV after that. It's bad. They're very aware. That's one of the best things they're aware of, and one of the best things they do to counterpoint WWE's operations. So I agree. That's across the board a great thing about AEW and their the way they schedule things. And also, Peter Bahi, $5. When Punk debuted, Rampage earned 1.3 ratings. Now they're at, I think it means 1.3 viewers. Now they're at 500,000. Casuals still exist.
Well, I think that proves CM Punk's point in that, people wanted to see CM Punk's return to wrestling. That was a big moment for people who hadn't watched wrestling. There were people who came out like, wow, CM Punk's coming back. I'd like to see that. After they saw it, they didn't come back. And the audience went right back to the hardcores. And if you were to tell me really like 5 years ago, hey, CM Punk's going to come back, but then, in a couple of weeks he'll be wrestling for 500,000 people, I wouldn't believe you. But that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of CM Punk, let's get into one of the other highlights of the night, which is incredible when you hear and digest how little was said and done, which I guess speaks to the position of both these characters and what they represent. So MJF comes out. He's got Shawn Spears and Wardlow, of course, flanking him. Tries to get Spears. Spears tries to get the crowd to shut up and what have you. That's not going to work. MJF talking about how great he is. He's interrupted all of a sudden by the sound of CM Punk's music. He comes out, and you can feel it, Alfred, as you're watching. There is everybody is standing. There's a feeling of this is one of the when Punk comes back to wrestling and he comes back to AEW, this is one of the fantasy bookings. CM Punk, Mr. Pipe Bomb, Mr. Righteous, Mr. stands up for him and his fans and the business that he loves. And then you have this other guy who's the young guy who's 20 years his youth, who flaps his gums and everything else and what have you. You think, okay, this is a fantasy matchup I want to see happen. Now we think we're about to see it. So people are on the edge of their seat, me included. Punk steps in, fans are going crazy. MJF's a little put off by it, but finally just accepts it, decides that, okay, sticks out his hand and says, Max, trying to do an introduction of like, okay, old man, let's go ahead and do this. Punk doesn't even bother to shake his hand. Punk doesn't even bother to say a word, Alfred. He laughs in his face, turns his back to him, and leaves. Commentary sells it. Disrespect and stunning to MJF. A swerve. Not what I expected. I expected us to start the battle on the mic right there. And brilliantly, Punk has now just made us all wait. And he has now elevated the anticipation of the war of words happening sometime at a later date. And Max, MJF being, perturbed. They just got disrespected. What a great call. Whoever made this call, bravo to them.
Yes, absolutely a great call. That's exactly how it should have happened because, to your point, CM Punk and MJF in the ring talking is a segment that needs to be promoted and something that people will go out of their way to watch, and to just kind of spring it on us. It would have been great if we saw that. I was getting really excited for the possibility of it. But from a business standpoint, this is something you want to milk. You want to say, hey, turn on your TVs next week in Chicago. We're going to have CM Punk and MJF go head to head. And I think the allure of this is there's a lot of elephants in the room that have not been brought up with CM Punk in AEW in terms of his opponents. There's a Colt Cabana elephant in the room. There's a UFC career that kind of didn't work out for CM Punk. Nobody's touched that. And I think MJF is going scorched earth. And he's going to bring up all these little real life things about CM Punk being a quitter or whatever. And I think it's going to make for some great television.
You hit the nail on the head. That's it. There's elephants in the room. There is just crazy mic drops that can be put on CM Punk, all in the name of just fueling conflict. And who's the most appropriate person? Who's that heel? Who's that young? And it's MJF. So you're right. Whether it's the Colt Cabanas, whether it's the UFCs, whether it's without saying names or maybe saying, I mean, look, MJF's the one that's out there talking about, I got Bruce Pritchard's number. He's the one out there talking about, I'm going to the WWE when my contract's up here.
MJF is a dog, man. He don't care. He'll say anything.
So what he might say, referencing Vince, Triple H, any of the reported issues and problems of Punk's previous employer, it's going to come out, or it could come out here. So you're right. They're in Chicago next week. They promoted the ticket selling. They're in Long Island, MJF's backyard in December. So they have some checkpoints of when they could do some very interesting exchanges. So again, this was a highlight of the night, which is something to say when very little was said, that this is the highlight of the night. So
yeah,
go watch it. Again, if you're checking this podcast out looking for tips, go watch it, because you'll feel that energy and you'll feel that anticipation is going to grow. Darby's backstage. Darby Allin, he says he's not going to take off even though he lost to MJF. He's going to keep going. He wants the biggest and the baddest. So enter Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn, who is a big Billy's jacked for his age and physical specimen. Billy Gunn and Darby are going to face off on Rampage this Friday. Billy Gunn, no joke. Billy Gunn's a legit 6'6". He is in the best shape of his life, which is saying something because he's like 50 years old. And he's going to dwarf Darby. Darby's going to
like Andre the Giant standing next to Darby.
Yeah. Darby's going to Darby. Darby's going to be crazy and good, and Billy's going to do the job and all that stuff. But it's just the visual of the two of them side by side for a moment is going to be a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I did like one of his sons, I think it was Colton, who said, I like turtles. There's that viral video with that zombie kid in the face paint. That really popped me. I thought that was very funny for him to bring that up.
Vince would have never got that.
Yeah, no, that is very inside. I think a lot of people watching may not have understood that because it is from a while ago, but it was a very funny reference.
Adam Cole backstage with the Bucks, and he brings in Bobby Fish, and they're going to put an end to this Jurassic joke. And then Bobby Fish almost proceeds to do an undisputed sign off until the Bucks stop him. They can't legally do that. So they are teasing it. Tease.
I love it.
Bobby Fish.
Looking for something that might happen. Because, I mean, again, it kind of reminds me of the Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan and Miz angle where it's like, can they even have a match? Bryan Danielson is hurt right now, but just in case, that's what it feels like they're doing here. Hey, in case we get Kyle O'Reilly, let's start telling these stories.
Right. Yeah. Bobby Fish trying to hook you there with all of it. All right, this was fun. This is one of the best matches. Again, Leo Rush, Dante Martin. Obviously, they had just a hell of a match last week. We talked about and praised that. They're back out again, up against the Acclaimed. Max Caster doing his thing, dropping some Leo Rush, you better off being a manager.
Yeah.
So
Virgins in Virginia.
Yeah, Virgins in Virginia. There's some fun stuff here. Good stuff. The Acclaim versus Leo Rush, Dante Martin. I try to do play-by-play. I'm not even gonna try. Fantastic match. Again, I'm so excited when I see Leo Rush now. I just Leo wins with a frog splash, by the way. And then
In a weekend full of frog splash, that was the best looking frog splash I saw all weekend.
There was so much good stuff here. This is, I mean, I don't have the words. It is so exciting to see Leo Rush on TV. Every time he's out there, the sequence that they opened up with, trying to describe this, as he would hit the ropes and then he would go to the next side of the ropes. It's just stuff you don't see anybody do. Yeah. And you look at it and you go, well, what am I watching? And then you actually think about what he's doing and you think about the timing aspect of it. It's phenomenal stuff. Leo Rush, Dante Martin, they get the win, as they should. After the match, Team Taz comes out real quick. They're still trying to recruit Dante Martin. Team Taz, they've been floundering the whole time. I guess Brian Cage is officially gone. I don't know, from Team Taz. We haven't seen him in a long time. A lot of rumblings of what's going on there. Whatever. But I'm just happy if it keeps Dante Martin and Leo Rush on TV every week doing a match. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and this is just back-to-back weeks of throwing them out there, having a match, and them tearing the house down, getting AEW chants. I mean, these guys were all phenomenal, and I just think Dante and Leo make such a great team, even the fact that they legitimately make such a great team is going to add to the storyline of when Darius comes back. There's going to be legitimate, I don't know, man, maybe Dante is better off with Leo, so they've already set the table for that, so that's going to be great storytelling. But I also love the fact that I think Anthony Bowens needs some credit in terms of he's on a heater right now. This is like the third week in a row, whether it was a Bryan Danielson match, the Jungle Boy match, and now this. And Max Caster's doing his thing, and he's looked great and stuff. But I think Anthony Bowens is a guy who kind of gets slotted as Marty Jannetty and, not as high profile as Max Caster. But he's been having some bangers in there. And I think this guy really needs to get his flowers in terms of how good he's been. But I just loved all four of these guys in there. This was a great match.
Couple comments coming through that I'll give some love to. Edward Cousins is Leo Rush is the cheat code in 2K. He really is.
He reminds me of like Vega from Street Fighter, where there's all these players who can shoot fire and you could be cheap with them. But if you know how to play Street Fighter, you pick Vega because he'll jump all around the place. He'll go on the cage. You can't hit him. Yeah.
I think of baseball. I think of one of the PlayStation 2 baseball games back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. You could have a cheat code where if you put it in, your player was like, if he hit just a ground ball, you get to first base safely every time he had the super speed. And I'd always do it with Ichiro. I could get like a double. I could like hit like a ground ball to like shallow left field, and I had a double every time with Ichiro. Yeah. That's what I think about with Dante Martin. Cheat code. King Mike 307. I would hate to play Leo and Dante in 2-on-2 basketball.
Yeah. You always be open.
Joseph, correction, you're right. I thought Cage was kicked out of Team Taz a long time ago. You're right. Cage was. What I meant to say is, I don't even know if Cage is with AEW anymore. Cage seems to like have.
Yeah, some not so nice things to say. I mean, I know his wife came out and spoke out against AEW, and so tough time for Chico, California's own Brian Cage. Is very talented. I hope he lands on his feet, whatever happens.
Chico, California. Hey, this is where you got to do your part. You got to take up and.
Yeah, I got to be the liaison here.
You got to carry the weight. Yeah, be the liaison. Call Tony up. Figure things out.
I'm sure.
You're screaming to be an agent here. An agent for the Chico, California.
We could have a stable. Aaron Rodgers is kind of a heel now. We can do a heel stable. I'm sure I'd be a heel to that audience. So maybe we'll go on
that. Aaron Rodgers is definitely a heel to some people right now. Oh yeah. All right, main event time. TNT champion Sam McAvoy up against Jay Lethal. So if you've just woken up, Jay Lethal, who of course, where's he at in his wrestling career? He's getting an opportunity with AEW here. We anxiously await the graphic for is Jay Lethal All Elite. Well, we don't know, but tonight he's in the main event of AEW up against the TNT champ. Split crowd, very much 50-50 on for both guys here. This is a baby versus baby situation. Just before commercial, Sammy goes for a big high-flying move, misses it, goes for broke, ribs taped up, already injured. Doc's looking at his ribs or the story. Can he continue? Should he continue? He then again tries to go for a swanton off the top through the timekeeper's table. Lethal move, so Sammy eats that. Just looks like Sammy just facing all kinds of brutality. Looks like Jay Lethal's going to get this one, but finally Sammy does counter, hits him with the GTH and gets the victory. Jericho and company of the Inner Circle come out, congratulate and celebrate with him, and ultimately they do shake hands, Sammy and Jay Lethal, and Jay Lethal celebrates with the Inner Circle going off the air. So Sammy retains the title. I don't really think there's a question here. Alfred, the big story is Jay Lethal. What does this mean for his career? He's a 20-year veteran. He's on TNA and Impact. He's on Ring of Honor. He's been on TV. He's never had. I mean, this is obviously the biggest audience he's ever been in front of on TV. Big night for him.
Yeah, there was an audience that was very familiar with him, and he was very over to the audience. I was very nervous in terms of when he debuted at the pay-per-view, and they said, okay, you get Sammy Guevara. To your point, I think, he hasn't had the title long enough to make you believe he was going to lose it to Jay Lethal. I think they did a good job within the confines of the match, really playing up Sammy Guevara being seen by Doc Samson, his ribs hurt. So you're thinking maybe in the back of your mind, well, maybe Jay Lethal takes advantage of this in a heel way and is able to wrestle the title away. But yeah, Sammy Guevara winning this. I love Jay Lethal, and I hope that he gets the opportunity in AEW and continues to stay there. But again, we're just gonna have to see if he's been signed there, what they have planned for him. I hope they don't just see him as like he's a good hand who he's gonna have good matches with the younger guys, because he's very talented, very familiar with that audience. I do think that if they gave him a real shot and gave him something to do, he could really, really get over in a big way.
Yeah, a couple people corrected me that they're saying that Lethal is signed. So if he is signed, all right, he is all elite. So we'll see. Yeah, well, like I said, to your point, what is he going to be doing? What's his role? So we'll see. But nonetheless, a loss here, but wins and losses ultimately don't matter. It's how you look, and he looked strong as hell. He's in the main event of the primetime show. So good stuff there. So that was Dynamite. Hojo to go Belinsky, $5. No news mentioned on Gresham's new promotion. Is it real or what?
Oh yeah, Terminus.
Yeah. Jonathan Gresham's he's got a new promotion. I mean, it's always good to have places for people to work. I don't know what it's going to mean in the grand scheme of things. I don't have any other insight other than that, but more promotions always better.
I see a lot more of this from wrestlers in terms of they're just going to have to. If you look at the amount of free agents and the few promotions that are out there, wrestlers are just going to have to start starting their own promotions, start partnering up, teaming up together, and be more entrepreneurial than ever, because unfortunately, there just isn't the demand to meet the supply of wrestlers. And so they're just going to have to do it from the ground floor. And I'm all for this. I love this. Doing it in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, and the good news is in today's world, as we are, leaving 2021, in the world of streaming and how easy it is to stream these days, that's the advantage. That was always the toughest thing about having a wrestling promotion, is you needed distribution. You go back to the days of just television or what have you. It was, getting on local TV, cable, whatever. So now that you can, stream on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and all these things, with far less overhead and far less know-how, that's the advantage. I mean, you can get people to see it easier. You can stream to Twitter and everything else. So I agree. That's probably what the future is. There's gonna be a whole lot more what used to be what we call the territories that Vince obviously swallowed up. The territories are going to turn into digital territories. It's going to be, here's the group that streams exclusively to YouTube every single week, and they get, 500,000, and they're Gresham's group. Oh, here's the group that's really big that does the Facebook Live, and it's managed to get this. And, kind of, and NWA kind of set the tone a little bit with this, with the resurgence of Billy Corgan's NWA. So that's the new territory. Is not going to be, you're the Florida TV. It's going to be, you're the fill in the blank social platforms TV. So to speak. So that's where we're headed, and it is what it is. But I agree, Alfred. We got to. That's what's going to have to happen, because there is a huge surge. 10, 12, 13 years ago, those who wanted to be pro wrestlers, who thought, okay, the money's declining or the popularity's declining, I'm going to go do this MMA thing. There's a lot of money in MMA. There's still money in MMA, but the popularity boom that was MMA in like the 08 to like 12 range, that's died down. There's not as much it's not as much excitement in UFC as there once was. Hell, a lot of the biggest UFC names have filtered over to WWE. So, take that for what, take that for what it is. So, yeah, it is an ever-changing world. So we'll see how it happens. But yeah, Jonathan Gresham, starting his own indie wrestling or own wrestling promotion. So
that's good. The more this happens, the more you're going to get that cutting edge where people are going to take risks. They're going to be more creative, and that's going to probably inspire some of these bigger companies to be like, "Oh, I didn't know that could work. Maybe we can do something like that." Because I think the wrestling business does need more of an injection of how things are done in wrestling, and I think all these different promotions hopefully are going to start springing up and doing things differently.
Look, and I'm saying this half jokingly, but there's a certain level of like, maybe this is for real. When's the first promotion going to start that aligns with a major wrestling website? When's the first promotion going to start that signs and says, I'm the official, that Wrestling Inc. is my official distributor, and that every show is distributed via Wrestling Inc. social media?
They did have What Culture Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of a deal, but like that's there, and we're okay. This website and like a Wrestling Inc. that gets phenomenal traffic is going to, publicize our signings and our results and be our publicity and use their platforms to show our matches. I mean, all that's going to be that has to become more commonplace. Yeah. That's there. So
Monday Night Raw is going to be booking the territories, though. You're telling me?
Well, I mean, Bleacher Report basically does it with AEW.
Yes,
you watch AEW via Bleacher. I mean, you and I have a very long standing history with Bleacher Report. If you would have told me what 9 years ago when we were doing the stuff we were, that Bleacher Report is what we're going to stream. The primary competitor that is getting 1 million viewers a week that's rivaling WWE. I don't know if I would have believed you, but here we are. So
it is a really good idea. I mean, I do think, because the audience is there. You're right. I mean, there's a built-in audience there already, so they could really hit the ground running if promoted correctly.
Yeah. All right, so that was the night that was AEW Dynamite and all the news and the headlines. Again, go to WrestlingInc.com. Check everything else out that you like. We appreciate everybody tuning this podcast again live on the video, or if you're checking out the audio the next day. I prompted the call to action on Monday. I'll do it again now because I got some great responses. Tweet me at Justin LaBar. Tweet him at This Is Nasty. How do you consume this podcast? Are you on your way to work? Are you on your way to school? Or are you putting the kids on the bus? Are you working out and using us as background noise? What are you doing? How do you consume the podcast? Love to hear it. I love to visualize and figure out how are we connecting to you. What are you doing in your life that you're letting us be part of? It's awesome. We appreciate it. The numbers continue to grow. It's great stuff. Like, share, comment, do all those things. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. Alfred, give us some plugs. What's going on at Forbes?
At This Is Nasty, and then watch me on Forbes. I have coverage of tonight's show. I've got a great interview with Buddy Matthews, aka Buddy Murphy, that's up there. Please check that out. And I'll also be covering SmackDown. Have some stories coming up with the next couple of days.
Sounds good. He's at This Is Nasty. I'm at Justin LaBar. You can check me out again Friday morning. I'm back on channel 156 on Sirius XM. Busted Open with Dave LaGreca and Mark Henrys. We'll be talking all the week shenanigans. Love it. We're back Sunday night for Survivor Series. Alfred, are you with me on Survivor Series?
I should be. I'll be in the bullpen. I'll be in the emergency. I've let me know that I'll be available if they need me. So probably, I think I'll make myself available for that.
Give me Vaughn. give me Alfred. All right, Sunday night Survivor Series. We'll get to it. Whoever it is, it'll be entertaining. Hopefully, it's Alfred's with me. I'm sure it'll be fun. All right, thanks to everybody. Be safe. We'll talk to you next Wednesday after next week's Dynamite. And